we are in the 21st century with all the phones in my hand, right? I always book my personal travel in seconds. Again, there is no dearth of money. McKinsey is a very rich company, and I have to deal with this. I have to call up a travel agent and book this. This doesn't work, right? As a user, travel is not working. And here is a large billion-dollar organization asking McKinsey, which is very, very costly, to optimize their travel. So it's neither working for companies, not working for employees. We signed our Series B term sheet, Series B fundraise. Next day morning, I get a call from the investor. Have you seen this thing called COVID? First few cases in India just got reported.
Welcome to the One Away Show. Today's guest is Mayank Kukreja, a former McKinsey consultant turned founder who transformed a moment of travel chaos into a billion-dollar business opportunity. In this conversation, we dive into the emotional tug-of-war between certainty and conviction, how he scaled from booking tickets manually to serving 800 plus clients, and the clarity that emerged during the silence of the pandemic. It's a story of resilience, reinvention, and the power of intentionality. Let's dive in. MK, welcome to the One Away Show.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Happy New Year. And really excited to do this chat, given our first conversation. So, what is your one away moment that you want to share with us today?
I thought about it. And the big one which stands out is when before starting the company, I was working with McKinsey as a consultant. And there was this one particular week where a bunch of things got together. So just background to that. I'm a computer engineer by background, always fascinated by technology. Started my career as an engineer in a startup. Then did the MBA, went to the dark side of consulting. Really loved it. Worked with McKinsey for a long time. I was very clear at some point I was about to going to start a company. I was also very clear that to start a company, I need a big problem. I need technology to solve that problem. And I need some personal inspiration. There has to be some connect to that problem. There was this one week, I was working with a client on their cost optimization project. As part of big cost optimization, travel always comes up. So we were working on optimizing their travel processes. In parallel, as a consultant, I used to travel a lot. I think at that time, there were about 2 years when I didn't even have a house. I just lived wherever the project was. And in that moment, I had a particularly bad flight day. So took a flight, direct flight got cancelled. So I was put on a connection. The connection got delayed and I had to literally drive the second leg. And in that time, I was trying to reach out to the travel company which McKinsey had, which is a large name in the industry. I couldn't get support. I was like, we are in the 21st century with all the phones in my hand, right? I always book my personal travel in seconds. Again, there is no dearth of money. McKinsey is a very rich company, and I have to deal with this. I have to call up a travel agent and book this. This doesn't work, right? As a user, travel is not working. And here is a large billion-dollar organization asking McKinsey, which is very, very costly, to optimize their travel. So it's neither working for companies, not working for employees, right? This was that inspiration I was looking for, right? Large problem, consultant might have figured that out. Tech can solve it, but this inspiration that here's an industry which is neither working for companies, not working for employees, and I can do something here. That made me sit back. It still took some time to start the company, but a bunch of factors had come together at that time.
That's cool. It seems like, it's interesting, and maybe this is only in hindsight that you knew this, but maybe it was foresight as well. You said, You needed technology. You needed a big problem.
Yeah.
You needed the personal inspiration. Right. And you kind of saw the opportunity firsthand on the job. And it's like you kind of knew the variables of what would make you go forth or take the leap on something that you saw. So I noticed that as a the through line of what you were saying. Now tell me this: once you realize how hard it was, right? McKinsey, like you said, tons of money. This shouldn't be so hard. What were your next steps?
The next steps, very frankly, was how do I move out of McKinsey? It's a very good job. Not just in terms of money, lots of learning. But it's so intense that you can't do anything else while you are doing that, right? So the first forcing mechanism was let's leave McKinsey so that I get time to think how do I convert this to an idea. The other part which I was very clear was I am not going to start a company alone. I need a co-founder. And co-founder not for skills. I was a generalist with a technology background, so technically I could have managed the skills, but I realized that company building is a long process and I need emotional support. For that, at least I need a co-founder. So I left McKinsey and for some time joined a startup to get some time to think and to look for people in the startup world. McKinsey is a very different world. You're mostly working with very large old school companies, even new companies, they are billion-dollar companies. You don't get to see the startup world as much. So the next step was finding the co-founder. So I spent some time at the startup. Incidentally, another person who used to work at McKinsey joined the same company. We were both in the founders team, kind of chief of staff. And I convinced him to start together. So that was an important part.
Wow. What was harder, finding your wife or your co-founder?
Yeah. Co-founder was harder. I had to go to many more people to pitch as a co-founder. My wife, I knew for a long time before we got married.
I understand. Well, for those that don't know, your wife runs a software company, and I'm shocked at how you guys do it. But maybe we'll cross that bridge at some point here. So that's cool. It seems like you were deliberate, right? I think you said something. You gave yourself time to think, get paid, and figure out kind of what was ahead. But you always knew, it sounds like, this problem. And you always knew like what you were going to do. It was just giving yourself the space to think about how to go about solving it. Is that fair?
Looking back, the dots connect. It's not so clear when you're going through it. If I lay out the journey, after my first job was with almost a startup. So this was a very large company at some point called LimeWire. LimeWire used to be a P2P sharing software, very big on the internet. And they said, let's start something like Google Labs. And they hired a bunch of kids directly fresh out of college and said, build something new. This is called Lime Labs. Very interesting. Although again, independent company, not really a startup funded by a very large parent company. But we built 2-3 very good products. And that's where the inspiration came. This is very cool. I should do something around this.
I see.
But felt, I'm an engineer. I probably don't know business enough. So let me do an MBA. Did the MBA and said, this was very theoretical. Let me get some practical knowledge. What's the most practical business knowledge? Consulting. Let's go join McKinsey. Yeah. For 2 years. That 2 years became 4 years. I don't think forward looking it was so planned. All those steps helped. But at some point, I think more than logical brain, it is the conviction to now I want to start something on my own. Let me take the leap. That conviction took a long time coming.
Yeah, it's actually a emotional growth process, right? And it's something that it's scary as heck to do. When like you said, it took you a while to get there. What were the factors that you were considering, right? Was it, between money, between family, between kind of knowing when to leap? Like what were the maybe variables or criteria for you to say, hey, this is the time to maybe go forth?
I think it evolved over time. I thought it was money. I was clear that if I take a leap, I should have at least enough savings to sustain myself for 2 years. Even to give a fair shot at a startup, you need in 2 years effort. I assume no salary for 2 years. But that I solved for much earlier. I think it was the conviction. Was just plain, I can leave that drug called a monthly salary and get into entrepreneurship. I think that confidence or that leap just takes some conviction, which time to again happen. And I had to literally step back and think repeatedly, where do I want to be? What do I want to be doing 10 years from now? Is this going there? Right? I don't think I did that enough times. But whenever I did that, those lines, the current line was not going towards where I want to be. I think doing that enough times made me finally take that leap.
That's awesome. Well, it's I'm glad you had the gumption to go forth and pursue. And like you said, it takes time, and it takes, I like what you said about the monthly drug of salary as well, right? It is probably addicting, and you gotta eventually go. But you went, and you did it. So tell me about the startup process, right? Like there's an opportunity in the travel space.
Yeah.
You realize, hey, there's a technology at scale and service in a way that we can build for these companies of large scale to help their people kind of book travel, because it not only save time and yada yada yada, but it's just going to make a much smoother experience to be an employee and get to where you need to be. So kind of talk us through, like, what were your first steps? Like, how did you think about building the product? Did you try and get customers first? Did you build the product first? Give me the lay of the land at the beginning.
Sure. I think just intuitively, the one great thing consulting experience did was build the very strong business sense on top of just being an engineer. So we said we need to go out and verify. So even before writing first line of code, we went and spoke to, I think, about 50 plus customers, buyers, that this is what we are trying to build. This is what it will look like. Started first few conversations were on a concept level. Then we realized the concept maybe is not very clear. So we converted that to what we knew, presentations, made presentations almost look like mock of a product. But even before we started writing code, we had done a bunch of customer conversations, and the idea had evolved at that time. I think till date, even 7 years after starting the company, the thinking is very clear. If we have an idea, we have to go and verify with the market in some sense. But building a product and then taking it to full product into a market doesn't make sense. So that loop we have been very clear about. So talk to a bunch of customers. Our idea evolved quite a bit. We figured out things that it's going to be huge. It'll take years to build, but let's start small. So in the first 6 months, we figured out it'll going to be travel and expense and payments and things which we built 4 or 5 years into the journey. Many of them, those ideas didn't even pan out. Many of things we learned, we were in wrong directions. But almost always sit with the customer, figure that out. It sounds non-intuitive, but I think for 2 weeks, me and my co-founder almost became travel agents for a customer sitting in their office. We'll book your tickets. We know theoretically this problem, but we don't know what does a ticket booker goes through. We don't know when that request come, what all that, because technically we were not from the travel industry. So we really got our hands dirty before writing any code. In parallel, as we were doing this, we built a team, started building prototype, but the technology came slowly. We started solutioning for customers much earlier.
Wow. I love the intentionality. I mean, you seemed like you were very focused on customer first, You did a lot of discovery, a ton of interviews, and learning what it was like to actually book and kind of get your hands dirty in that process, I'm sure was extremely informative in the process of building the product. Question for you that I have is, what surprised you the most at the early stages, and like what were some of the, and based on what surprised you, what were the assumptions over time that were proved wrong?
The biggest assumption which proved wrong, I think we were very naive to think that if a thing is very logical, everyone will buy it. It sounds trivial to say it out loud. So we have a very cool way to save money for you in travel. And the concept is very simple. Let's say your company allows you to spend $300 a night on a hotel, right? Then an employee will spend $300 a night on the hotel if they are allowed that limit. What if the company tells them, instead of spending $300, if you spend less, you spend $200, whatever you save, a part of that, you can keep, right? This is win-win. Employee keeps a part of the savings, company gets to have saving. It's such a logical idea. I thought everyone will buy it. What we did not realize is it's not about the logical idea. When you start going to slightly bigger companies, anything more than, let's say, 50 people, even if an idea is very logical, it's not clear to the company, how do I manage this change? If it was anything more than a founder-driven company, it was not clear whether HR will take this decision or finance will take this decision. So the change management and convincing people that move from what you have, which is not great, that is much more than having a great product or an idea. And as I think back, again, it's very obvious now. Both of us, technically, me and my co-founder, did not come from a sales background. We had done consulting, we had done parts of sales, but to like CXOs only, right? We had not done real hardcore sales. So I think that was the biggest surprise or the biggest learning in the couple of first few years.
That's interesting. It's interesting when you talk about too, like size. It's like companies already have at a size of 50 or more, probably fairly set in stone processes around how they do things to get to where they are. And so the cognitive load for a company to integrate into them proves to be more challenging. On that note, what did you do to overcome that? Like, what did you do to make that frictionless and so easy for, companies to be like, oh, this is a no-brainer?
So two things. One, we toned down the amount of change we were asking them to do, right? So we used to lead with this idea, completely change your system, start giving incentives, right? So for example, instead of that, now we are saying just simplify your travel process and save money. Second, we had to write down a bunch of stuff which can be replicated by our sales teams. So when you're a founder, a bunch of things come just intuitively to you because you have lived with that problem. You have done those 50 interviews, right? Converting that intuition. So even managing that change management, first 10, 20 customers was okay. Me or my co-founder could do it. But when we started having sales teams, they couldn't replicate that, right? Because they were trying to sell a standard proposition. So converting that to a process internally and in toning down the change we were asking the companies to do, we had to do a mix of both of that to come to somewhere where it was more palatable to the companies. Otherwise, we would get a lot of interest, but then somewhere the companies would say, no, this is too much change, maybe later, not now.
In terms of though, like your founding sales motion was strong. Like you scaled, you and your co-founder, to 15 to 20 clients or customers. And then enterprise, I mean, I just got to be curious, how fast did you get 20 enterprise customers?
I think the first 20 was reasonable size 20 was in the first 4 or 5 months.
That's fast.
It was fast. But it took us a long time to get a founder out of a sales, right? For a long time, founder had to be involved. This was for a long time, I think more than 2 years, it was founder influence, heavily influenced sales.
Yeah.
And then we had to change a bunch of things because 2 years into our journey, we hit COVID. As a travel company, we hit COVID.
I see.
So
I was going to ask you about that as well. You beat me to the punch. So thank you. Real quick though, but so you hired, you brought in sales teams and they were able to eventually do it, but it wasn't a standard thing that they were offering. Like, what do you think though? I guess, how many customers do you have today?
today we have close to 800 customers.
800. Wow. So that's significant. So what do you think really allowed you though to scale sales? I know you went through the pandemic, but ultimately, like, what did you do to go from 20 to 800 customers?
One process that we had to start writing a bunch of more stuff, right? First is realization and then process. I give you an example of realization. Somebody told us in early days, you should write down your ICP, or ideal customer profile. And I saw these fancy charts where people had written down, my ideal customer profile is John, who is 35 years old, drinks his coffee at this Starbucks in the morning and does yada, yada, yada. This does not make sense. Why would I write to this detail? I broadly understand who my ideal customer profile is. But again, the realization that as a founder, I understand. My salesperson does not understand. He has not gone through those 50 discovery calls. These, again, seem like so simple things, took us time to understand. And that's why we have to write that down. I think that realization hit us so hard that both me and my co-founder discussed this. Why should we write down to this detail our ICP? We had written down in 4 bullet points. But at some point, we had to write down very detailed one. I think this was about 15 months into the journey. And there we realized that everything we are doing, we have to write down what worked. Obviously, you keep iterating on that. I think building that organizational memory has been very, very helpful. We are still working on it in many areas, but building a culture of writing, building a culture of what is working, what is not working is very, very helpful. Even today, again, 7 years in, we continuously keep expanding what is our ICP, what kind of industry we are getting into. Earlier today, I was writing down, this is a new industry. Here are the 5 things we have learned. Here are the 3 things I guess are true, but we have to test them out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it seems like just repeatability and repetition were huge for you to really train. And obviously, you have to hire the people, find them, build the culture for it. But ultimately, you're able to set yourself free by understanding who your kind of customers were. Was it, and I guess I'm just curious because your scale is significant and I want to talk about the pandemic and kind of where you are now, but were you the people that you hired on the sales side, right? Like, had they sold in the travel space before to enterprise clients, or were they just more kind of industry, kind of SaaS type of, sales leaders,
We've tried everything. We have tried everything. I think built our understanding over time. So the people we hired, if we hire from the travel industry, most of the travel industry players are very traditional. It was very hard to teach them how to talk about a new age product, even though they know very details of nuances of travel. So what we finally figured out is people, if you hire from new age companies, it's easier to teach them travel. Ideally, get from another new age travel business travel company, which there are a few now. When we started, they were not. Actually, it was much harder to hire and sales them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's just inspiring to see the growth, and it seems like you've obviously just wake up one day and have 800 customers. So clearly you probably failed a lot. You got punched in the face a ton. Speaking of which, when the pandemic happened, I'm curious, like, where was the company, customers, just like in your growth progression, and kind of what happened after?
So a company is across in two countries, US and India. A large part of the team also sits in India. I remember the day we signed our Series B term sheet, Series B fundraise. Next day morning, I get a call from the investor. Have you seen this thing called COVID? First few cases in India just got reported. Yeah. So it was on the same day. So we had just raised our Series B. We were in the process of raising Series B. Everyone told me, this is not coming through. You are a travel company, right? How will you raise money? Fortunately, that came through. But we were in that range. We had close to about 100 customers. We're scaling very fast, right? We're almost in the zone of like nothing can go wrong. All cylinders firing. We had raised funding round almost every 12 to 15 months. This was the third round. And then that hit. 15 days after that call, our revenue went to zero. And technically, everything was blocked. Travel was like stopped. So it hit zero for many, many months. So that was, if you talk about punch in the face, that was as big a punch you can get.
So you basically went from 100 customers paying you to 0 customers paying you overnight.
To zero customer. Nobody was paying. I mean, our revenue is completely usage based. Travel is usage based. You pay us when you book travel. You don't pay upfront. Yeah. There was no travel happening, right? People were sitting at home. So that was a big change. We for a time didn't even know how to deal with it. But I think now I think back, there were many positives we could figure out there. Obviously, revenue zero is not great, but we doubled down at that point in two things. One, we were able to increase the size of our customers. Over the next 1.5 years, we signed much larger customers than we were signing earlier. Sounds counterintuitive, took a lot of effort. In 2020, second half, imagine calling a large company and saying, let's talk about travel. The good part was the much larger companies had big travel teams. And they said, we have this travel program running and we have a 5-year contract and all that. Their contracts had also stopped. So now they were open to talking. At least they were open to talking and exploring what's new because their travel teams had nothing to do, right? Wherever they were not fired. That's why we were able to sign a bunch of large customers even during those 18 months. The second thing, I think when you are in a mad rush scaling mode, your product team gets a lot of noise from the customers as well. There's a product roadmap you want to build, but the existing customers keep demanding, I need this, I need this, I need this. So you have to wiggle your way through. In those 18 months, that noise had stopped. So we could build what we wanted to build. Today we have 3 products: travel management, expense management, and credit cards. Our second product, expense management, came in 2020. Like 6 months, heads down. We said, we want to build this. This is needed. We're able to build that. But again, sounds like that it's very easy. It was not easy, right? Waking up, listening in last month, what was revenue? 0 or almost 0, right? You really, really need conviction to keep doing what you're doing. What we are doing is right. Should I keep signing these large customers when even they are not even giving me revenue? Is this the right path? A lot of those questions start coming. I think this is where we very regularly, me and my co-founder both together and individually, started having a bunch of step back session, writing down what are we really building for? Do we have conviction that 2 years later, 3 years later, travel is going to come back? What will it look like? So let's keep going down this path. Because imagine building a company for 18 months, getting no real feedback in terms of product usage or money. It was painful, but I think it also increased our conviction in what we are doing.
That's super inspiring. And it also seems like it's just like the time, right? Like perhaps if COVID didn't happen, you wouldn't have been able to move upstream.
Yeah.
But you are burning significant amount of money, it sounds like, for a number of months. Did it ever cross your mind just be like, this is not going to work? Like I should just throw in the towel? What was, or were you just convicted on, hey, I'm going to find the way to make this work? Like what was your mental state at the time?
That thought used to come like multiple times a week. right? But I think the way to counter it is that a reaction or is that what I really feel? So that's what I mentioned, right? When those thoughts came, sit down, think about it, write down what do I need to believe, right? One of the first belief I remember is travel will come back, right? In the next 12, 18, 24 months. Nobody knew the time. I remember every 3 months we used to have a board meeting and we used to project when will travel start again, right? And I think that was the most useless exercise. Nobody knew. But again, if you look 3 years out, people will travel again and world will not go fully remote.
Yeah.
Which did not happen, right? Even when companies went remote, very interestingly, 2022, 2023, when companies went fully remote, actually their travel spend increased because they were doing more offsites now. Engineering teams which never used to travel used to do offsite every quarter now to meet when they were fully remote, right? So travel spend actually increased. So those were the beliefs we had to write down.
Yeah.
And when those thoughts crossed, we went back to the beliefs. Are they still true? Not easy. This is not straightforward, but I think that's why that it increased conviction.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you're a founder looking to grow without raising capital or giving up control, Relent is built for you. Founded by entrepreneurs who've scaled without outside funding, Relent helps companies find and retain talent, lower operational costs, and reinvest in growth. We've hired nearly 10 team members through Relent and streamlined our entire cost structure, freeing up capital to put toward what matters most. Even small teams can set up offshore operations quickly, compliantly, and without heavy infrastructure. With deep expertise in the India-US corridor, Relent combines cultural fluency with operational rigor and guides everything from team design to long-term scaling. Grow on your terms and start with Relent. To learn more, visit relent.team/arcbound. Very inspiring. And also just how you managed it. I mean, clearly, I'm sure incredible amount of stress and wonder and worry, but it's like you were able to build, right, a company almost as a market was turned off and like eventually going to come back online, and it's like you could build in the dark for a while when probably other people were going out of business in the same space. I know a number of people in the travel space under, so that's awesome. What when you talk about, I'm just curious, and just from a more time when you were talking about your expense management and all the pieces, how much would you compare or work closely with like a company like Ramp that does more like efficient see versus like even a Mercury type of bank? Like what how do you kind of see yourself, even though you're focused on travel? How do you see yourself as competitor with those companies, more like partner with those types of companies? Just kind of curious your thoughts.
It's an interesting question which keeps coming up with some customers as well.
Interesting.
I think there are 3 independent but slightly related products here. There is travel management, there is expense reimbursement, and there is credit cards.
Yeah.
Many companies in these 3 areas are trying to build all 3 or offer all 3. Ramp, Mercury to next. Mercury is more a bank, but Ramp is a cards company first.
Yeah.
To support cards, they build some expense management. We are very clear we are travel first. My travel is the deepest and the most significant product. On expense and cards, I'm not saying that I'm building the best product in the market. I am building the top 5 percentile product in the market, but my travel and expense will offer an experience which no one else can offer together. So today, I don't think there are any other companies left now. Bunch of them had started doing it, who do travel, expense, and cards natively built by themselves. A lot of companies try to do it by white labeling others. Because we have built it natively, there are lots of interesting things we can do which others can't. Right? So yes, to your original question, is Ramp a competitor? No. Again, their target segment is different. Their starting point is you have to take my card. Make your card expenses easy. We almost don't even sell our cards separately. You take our travel And our credit cards will make your travel bookings easier. You can use the card other places also. It's not only a travel card, but it's almost always travel led.
The reason I asked is I'm just been listening to a lot of content and just kind of connecting dots around the things that you were saying. So
We use Ramp as well, by the way. So
yeah, no, it's fun. No, very cool. And then tell me like so you shared a bit of the startup journey and kind of what led you to it. You shared the inflection point with COVID and then kind of how you were able to move upstream, not just move upstream, but actually grow significantly through COVID with bigger budgets and bigger opportunities to expand. Where's the company now? And what is the vision for, let's say, the next 3 to 5 years?
Travel is $1 trillion market with a T, right? So even when you grow quite a bit, the large players are really, really large and they are 100 years old or 50 years old, right? I think to make a significant dent in the travel market or business travel market, we only look at business travel, you need to grow quite a bit. So the company is growing very well, but from an absolute perspective, there are companies much bigger than us, right? Today we have started to get counted in one of the leaders in modern travel management. There are old school players, there are modern players. In modern players, we have started to get counted. From here, we get to a leadership position within modern travel players, but eventually, if we want to get to a leadership position in business travel, I think that's a decade-long journey from here. Wow.
Just to build on what you were saying when you were talking about your products, it's like you built your kind of core in for business travel and expenses and really just like built that out strong. And so while you might have other business lines, it's like what you're saying is we are for business travel like the place. And if we want other parts of that place, we can do that too. But that's like what we're known for is this, and there's no one else who can do it like us. And so I think it pairs well with what you said, like over the next decade, if you want to be an industry leader in a $1 trillion market, like there's a significant amount of growth that needs to happen so you're positioned to do so. And you can keep doubling down on that core business.
Absolutely. That's the good and bad of being in a very, very, very deep market. Nobody ever questions our market size. But then even after growing quite a bit, you are still a very small player and there's a lot of room to grow.
Yeah. The goalposts always move, as they say. Your co-founders, is he still in the business? Yeah.
Very much in the business.
What's his kind of, how do you guys delineate role and responsibility right now?
We keep changing. And the interesting part, and that's a question which got asked to us when we went to raise our first funding round, which was almost day zero. Both of you are consultants from McKinsey, which effectively means you have no skills. Both of you are generalists. Who will build tech? Who will sell? And we said, both of us are generalists. Both of us can do anything, right? But in the initial, I think, few years, I used to lead all the product engineering, fundraising, or any investor conversation. And he used to lead, my co-founder Anish used to lead all customer-facing things, which is sales, marketing, customer success. I think at some point around COVID, I started leading sales. So now I do product engineering and sales, and he does marketing and customer success. Which is a customer success and support is a huge part of travel.
Yeah, totally. I can appreciate that for sure. And it's great that you guys have seen, let's say, your roles kind of move back and forth over time, and you guys can probably see the business in different ways as it grows at different inflection points with those skill sets you've refined and grown. There's I hired a woman who does our customer success too, but I hired her from a software background who's like scaled pretty intentionally, but from like a brand and marketing world. And even though we're not a software company today, it's become the most important and critical hire I might ever make, right, for our business. And it's like, to your point with travel, like to have that skill set and somebody so dialed in on that, it's a remarkable talent to be able to make sure things are in place.
Yeah. I think overall, as a hiring philosophy, what we have figured out is being a generalist is very, very important. Even beyond a generalist, we call it a T profile. What does a T profile mean? That I am able to do a bunch of things well. I can pick up any problem and solve that, whether it's in sales or marketing or operations. And then over time, the person is able to build deep knowledge in one area. I think that T profile for us has worked very, very well.
So what you're saying is you hire people with like the abilities to do a lot of things well, and then you let them kind of find their way where they can double down over time.
Absolutely. We check again, even for an engineer, first, I think 30 engineers I interviewed. I would interview more of them on business understanding, product skills than engineering skills. Again, you're not building massive scale to begin with. You will manage engineering, but can you think product? Can you think design? Right? Those things are very important. A best example is we started this concept called founders team. So imagine chief of staff, but we were very clear we would have multiple people here. We have had this now for 5 years. Those people have worked out very, very well. They are almost like extensions of founder. What me and my co-founder Anish are not able to spend time on, but think are very important. These people pick up and run with this. Very interestingly, the 3 people who have left the company from the team, all 3 have started their own companies.
That's cool. It's neat to also build a culture, right, where other people can take their learnings and go start up their own, whether it hurts to lose them or not. It's neat that you're a place that enabled that.
I think when someone comes and says, I'm going to start a company, that doesn't hurt, right? They are some of the best people I have, but I mean, if I can inspire people to start their own company, I think it's a great, great thing to do.
For sure. Absolutely. This has been lovely. As we have, a bit more time here, I'm just curious, if you don't mind me asking, I mean, you've been on an impressive journey. I'm just curious, how do you not balance it, but how do you make time for, personal life? You see, mentioning your wife has a software company, you have a 4-year-old, what is the life of MK outside of work, and how do you keep it all together or not?
I don't. I think that's one part where I have not done well. So when I think about my goals, the biggest goal always ends up being how do I balance work with personal life. One thing which has started getting better is trying to find time with my son, at least an hour a day, is a forcing mechanism. Now I've started thinking outside work. Otherwise, I'm not proud of it, but I end up working 70, 80 hours a week at least. So how to find balance is something which is a constant struggle.
Yeah.
That's always almost when I write goals, one of the top things. How do I find balance here?
No. Well, I'm sure as your son gets older, he'll be able to appreciate all that you have been able to do the more time you spend with them. So that's special.
That's so.
Yeah. All right. Well, we just turned the corner on the new year. Let's do some rapid fire questions at the end, and I'll send you on your way. Top 2 or 3 kind of priorities or goals for the year, personally or professionally?
The top goal is personal. How do I find balance to focus on my own health and to spend time with family?
Yeah.
Professional goal is how do I move the company closer from being one of the modern travel companies to the leader in modern travel companies. So that obviously translates to some numbers internally, but those are 2 goals.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do this one. You could have dinner with any entrepreneur in the world. Who would it be, and what would you ask?
Standard answer. It will be Elon Musk. How does he manage so many companies?
Yeah.
Right? He does lot of stuff, good or bad, and people have very weird opinions, stark opinions there, good or bad. But he does a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? How do you manage that? It's been a challenge growing from like 5 people company to 10 people company to now few hundred people company. How do I change my own role? I think that's the extreme. This guy is running, I don't know how many companies and initiatives. How does he context switch and manage that?
Yeah, it is fascinating when you kind of peel the layers back. Now he's kind of running the country too. So
Yeah, that's it.
The big company.
Lots of initiatives, not just companies.
Well, good. MK, this has been a treat. I mean, truly. I really, admire the journey you've been on, and it sounds a lot easier than I know it has, and it's cool to share your learnings and hindsight, and I'm excited to see you take a lead in the travel industry in the next 10 years. I'll be watching the rise.
Thank you so much, Brian. This was a very interesting conversation. Almost felt like two guys sitting at the bar and having a chat. But
that's how I described it to you, right?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This was great.
Good. Well, I'm glad. I try not to get too invasive or be too business-like. I think these conversations are meant to hopefully be enjoyed, and I hope it was a good use of your 50 minutes running a big company. So
absolutely. Thank you so much.
Well,
bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The One Away Show. Mayank's story reminds us that every bold leap is quiet clarity, and that conviction isn't born overnight. It's built one decision at a time. If this conversation moved you, share it with someone who's standing at their own crossroads. And as always, we'll be back with more stories of the moments that changed everything.